As soon as the man climbed the stairs, his body suddenly froze, and his limbs began to twist and turn uncontrollably. Is this some mysterious supernatural phenomenon or the mischief of a ghost? Welcome to Kimu Khan channel. The movie begins, and we see Ajay and his sister, who witnessed their father murder their mother before their very eyes. That horrific scene has become a never-ending nightmare for the siblings. Even 20 years later, Ajay often wakes up startled. They say misfortune always chooses the unhappy. His sister, Shivai, had a congenital heart condition at a very young age, and Ajay spent almost all his savings. Yet, he was only able to afford her minimal medical expenses. Finally, one day, he made a very difficult decision to sell the house left by his parents. It was Ajay's only asset that could fetch him cash. The real estate agent liked the location and layout of the house. But as soon as he learned that a murder had once occurred in the house, his attitude immediately cooled. According to company rules, no haunted houses are sold. Ajay's face immediately turned angry. Then the agent thought for a while and handed Ajay a visiting card, instructing him to go and inquire at that location. Ajay arrived at the address and went to a real estate agency called in, whose glass windows were plastered with posters for the sale of haunted houses, and a recruitment poster was also posted on the main door. Seeing the door closed, he was about to peek inside when suddenly a man appeared before his eyes. Ajay was embarrassed. Just then, a car pulled up and a middle-aged man, the owner of the agency, got out. Ajay said, "I'm looking for Jean Gung." The old man replied, "It's me." After a little acquaintance, Ajay realized that this agency specializes in selling haunted houses. So he explained his situation. Boss Sheng was very professional. He explained that the value of houses involved in common accidents typically drops 6 to 8 times, and in cases like the one involving Ajay's family, the price drops the most. However, since the case has been going on for 20 years, the impact on the price will be minimal. Boss Sheng was confident that he would sell Ajay's house at a good price. There's no haunted house that can't be sold. The seller just needs to be the right one. Ajay went to the hospital to tell his sister the good news. But Show AI vehemently objected, as the house was the only memory of his parents, and the two siblings had many fond memories there before his father's temper changed. Ajay was in a quandary when his office supervisor called. Due to Ajay's repeated 3 days of work and 2 days off, someone else had been hired and he was instructed not to come to work again. The next day, Ajay went to the inpatient center and apologized to Boss Sheng, saying he wouldn't sell the house. Boss Sheng graciously understood his request. Just then, Ajay noticed a recruitment advertisement outside. He was currently unemployed, so he asked if he could take the job. Before Boss Sheng could say anything, a stout man pushed through the door, bringing a new job. As soon as the new deal arrived, the boss put everyone to work. Ajay was still standing there, so he was asked to join them. The first stout man to arrive was Manto. His father worked at the crematorium. Therefore, after the police, he was the first to know where a murder had occurred. The agency would often reach the victim's family before anyone else and acquire the haunted house at a low price. But every time, before cleaning, they would always go to a Chinese medicine shop for tea. It was said that drinking tea there kept evil spirits away. The owner, Bai Popo, recognized Ajay's new job at first sight and took him behind a curtain. Boss Sheng and the others took it for granted. Then, Bai Popo checked Ajay's nerves with one hand and did some calculations with the other. Then she was surprised and began asking questions nonstop. "You're 28 this year, you're a rat, right? How's your sister?" Ajay was perplexed, wondering how she knew so much about his life. After everyone left, a girl came downstairs. Bai Popo asked her, "You have a past relationship?" It seemed there was a strange connection between the girl and Ajay. Meanwhile, Boss Sheng arrived at the house with some people. Usually, after a house is confirmed for sale, it is cleaned first and then shown to the buyer. Mantu explained that the deceased in this house was a little boy. His parents were drug addicts and killed the child in a fit of rage. Fearing the truth would come out, they put the body in a garbage bag. When the smell spread, the neighbors called the police, and the matter came to light. The atmosphere was still eerie. Boss Sheng ordered everyone to finish their work quickly. Yongren went downstairs to move the car because he couldn't work due to fear. Ajay finally had to do the cleaning. He put on gloves and began. Then he saw the kitchen knife lying on the shelf. A shiver ran down his spine. Suddenly, a brush came rolling down his back. He picked it up and saw the knife was gone. Then another brush came, catching Ajay's attention. The closet door near the bedroom slowly opened. Ajay guessed that's where the brush came from. Gathering courage, he opened the door and found nothing inside. But there were blood stains on the door. Terrified, he stepped back and saw a child lying face down in the mirror. Then, the knife disappeared from the darkness and came flying towards him. But a black shadow pounced on him. Ajay was stunned. He recognized it as the girl from the Chinese medicine shop. She began muttering incantations and lighting amulets. Then he opened the closet, where a child sat curled up like a spirit. The girl gently reassured him that he needn't be afraid. In a flash, everyone was back at the doctor's shop. Ajay then learned that strange things often happen when cleaning haunted houses. That's why they enlist the help of Bhai Popo and his granddaughter. The next day, everyone lit incense sticks for the child's spirit. Only then is the cleaning considered complete. Ajay felt as if the child was waving goodbye to him. On the way back, Bhai Popo's granddaughter, Sia Mo, spoke to him. The deal was a success. A buyer was quickly found. Boss Xing gave everyone red envelopes and even bought Ajay a suit, which meant his job was confirmed. Ajay was overjoyed and put on the suit right there. This proved Boss Xing's keen eye. Ajay turned out to be a hard worker compared to others. One day, while returning from work late at night, his bike broke down near the factory. He was about to ask for help when he saw a picture of a girl covered in blood on the wall and a doll tied with a red thread. Terrified, he reached into a sealed jar containing a viscous black liquid. He ran for his life, but he didn't realize a dark spirit was staring at him. Returning to the hospital, he saw the glass door open automatically, and the shadow followed Ajay. Meanwhile, at midnight, Shawai left the ward to buy a drink. She saw the corridor lights blinking frantically, and she sensed danger. Finally, she turned and ran toward the elevator. But as the elevator door closed, a giant palm grabbed her hand, and the next moment, Shawai woke up in bed. But the scratches on her hand and the drink on the table proved it wasn't a dream. The next day, Ajay came to the ward. He saw his sister's face extremely pale, and Shawai seemed to inadvertently ask a question. Do you believe in ghosts in this world? Having been constantly involved with haunted house affairs recently, Ajay immediately sensed that his sister must have noticed something strange, especially when he saw the fear on her face. After saying goodbye to his sister, Ajay went straight to the Chinese medical center and found Xiao Mo. He explained that his sister was in trouble and needed his help, but for some reason, Xiao Mo's attitude remained cold as always. He told Ajay to quit selling houses, saying that if he wandered around too much at night, he would encounter a ghost who would come home with him and haunt his sister. But Xiao Ai's medical expenses were still pending, so Ajay was forced to return to the agency. Just then, a young, beautiful woman appeared before him. Her name was Li Jing, and she had come for a job in haunted house sales. Boss Xing felt that the job was too dangerous and not at all suitable for girls. But Li Jing said that she had excellent speaking skills and loved adventure. Boss Xing was still in a dilemma when Manto received a call from home. They had another new deal. Hearing this, Li Jing expressed his desire to go along. Boss Xing frowned and finally had to take Li Jing along. But this time, the task was not easy. When the deceased's father learned that the agents had come, he cursed everyone for money and said that they had sold their conscience. No matter how many explanations Boss Xing offered, the old man's attitude remained unchanged. Finally, only Li Jing was able to speak to the deceased's mother alone on the balcony, saying that everything reminds you of him. Running away doesn't ease the pain, but rather prolongs it. His words had a real impact, and finally, the family agreed to sell the house. Boss Xing praised Li Jing profusely and immediately appointed him a permanent employee. Upon receiving the keys, the next task was to clean the house. Perhaps for a long time, the room was filled with a foul smell due to lack of regular ventilation. Manto explained that the housekeeper had been betrayed by her husband and had tried various tantric rituals to win him back. However, heartbroken by the failed marriage, she committed suicide. The scuff marks on the balcony railing sent shivers down everyone's spines, especially when they saw the strange objects in the shrine. Boss Xing ordered everyone to finish their work quickly. Meanwhile, Yongren was shirking his work again. He was taking out his mobile phone and texting his wife when suddenly, a long hair fell on the screen. The spot where he was standing was the spot where the woman died. The man's head went blank. There was no need to wonder who owned such long hair. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Shawai suddenly heard a noise outside. She quietly opened the door and saw a long shadow in the corridor. She recognized the monster she had encountered earlier in the elevator. She immediately closed the door and hid under the bed. But the shadow crosses the wall and comes inside, poking its head out of the bed the next moment. Meanwhile, Ajay receives the news and rushes to the hospital in a panic. The nurse reports that Show AI suddenly suffered a seizure in the middle of the night and fell into a coma. The doctors conducted a thorough examination, but found no cause and didn't even say when she would regain consciousness. The next morning, Ajay sat lost in thought in the lobby. His sister hadn't woken up, and he wasn't sure what to do. Just then, an auntie in the canteen suggested that if the illness wasn't clear, he should see a master in Donghang. She offered him a visiting card. Seeing this as a last hope, Ajay went to the master. Surprisingly, the master turned out to be truly capable. He calculated just once and understood the gravity of the problem. He immediately suggested performing a spirit summoning ritual. He punched a hole in the yellow paper, shook the bell vigorously, and grains of rice began to fall into the hole. Before Ajay could understand anything, the master raised his sword, shouted loudly, and broke an earthenware bowl. After the ritual was over, he gave Ajay an amulet and told him to keep it with his sister, hoping she would regain consciousness within 2 days. Returning home, Ajay saw the bill for 24,000 rupees and thought he had been duped. Then he received a call from the hospital saying that Xiu had indeed regained consciousness. After seeing her, Ajay was convinced he had found the real master. He took the amulet and rushed to the hospital, but little did he know that on his way home, Master was seized by a mysterious force. His body began to shake uncontrollably, and a dark shadow stood far behind, holding the amulet and controlling Master's movements. Master picked up scissors from the ground and slowly moved them towards his tongue. At that moment, Xiu appeared on the hospital bed. Suddenly, she woke from a dream. She felt her ankles tied to something. She pulled the blanket away in panic, and the next moment, a powerful force pulled her down. The curtains opened, and she saw the strange man again, only to be thrust back into darkness. There, she saw another Xiaoyu AI lying in a hospital bed. Her sister's soul had been taken away by the angels of the underworld. But Ajay knew nothing of this. That morning, she had an appointment with a client to see a house, and Li Jing, newly employed, insisted on accompanying her at any cost. The two were having a pleasant conversation when the customer arrived. But as they opened the door, everyone was stunned. The once tidy room was now a mess. Li Jing panicked and saw her colleague, Yongrin, in the corner. He was muttering and suddenly attacked Li Jing. Ajay immediately rushed forward and pushed him away. Just then, Li Jing looked up and saw a blurry figure lying behind Yongrin. It was as if something had dawned on him. Without thinking, Ajay ran out of the room and onto the street. Li Jing told Ajay that Yongrin was possessed by a female ghost. Ajay wanted to go back and rescue him, but Li Jing forcefully stopped him. The next moment, he called his boss, as such cases should be handled by a specialist. But the traditional healers weren't answering the phone. Ajay, compelled, went to the traditional healing center and asked Xiao for help. Meanwhile, Yongren's wife, Wan Yu, suddenly received a call from her husband, but the voice was terrifying. A deep unease filled Wan Yu's heart, and she followed the phone's directions to the bloody house. But as she approached, Yongren's face took on a strange ferocity, and the grip around her waist tightened. His eyes turned red, and he picked up a rope and put it around Wan Yu's neck. He kept saying that he would never tell his wife anything. They wouldn't be separated. The two were once happily married, and Wan Yu was pregnant. But at that time, Yongren was so busy with work that he couldn't devote time to his wife. As a result, Wan Yu's unborn child could not survive, and the wife's anger and the husband's guilt combined to create a rift in their relationship. Yongren would argue repeatedly, but Wan Yu simply responded. One day, he accidentally saw a message on his wife's phone that made him believe Wan Yu was seeing another man. His anger spiraled out of control, and he attacked the man. The next moment, the police arrested him. In reality, Wan Yu was posing as a couple with her colleague to catch a criminal. But Yongren ruined everything, and on the way home, they had a long argument, and their pent-up anger erupted. Amidst the argument, Yongren got out of the car, feeling he had nowhere to go. Finding the keys to his brother's house, whom he had met just yesterday, he drove there overnight. But she didn't know that a wandering spirit also existed in that house, trapped by her suspicions of her husband's infidelity and her obsession with proving herself right. As a result, Yongrin was completely shattered and lost his sanity. He resolved to kill his wife first and then die himself so they could live together forever. Fortunately, the witch doctor Xiao Emo arrived just in time, muttering incantations and rapidly circling Yongrin with steel needles. Ajay and Ba Xiong exerted their full strength, and Xiao Emo finally pierced dozens of needles. Yongrin screamed loudly, and black fluid flowed from his mouth, and the ghost slowly left his body. Everyone in the factory could only see Xiaomo's back. The ghost trembled, wondering why he couldn't find it. Tears welled in his eyes. Xiao Emo decided that he wasn't a bad ghost. He was simply trapped in the world's illusions. So he burned the amulet and sent it to its proper place. After this incident, Yongrin and his wife's relationship warmed up again, and Ajay thanked Xiao Emo, saying that if she hadn't arrived on time, the consequences would have been disastrous. Ajay explained that he was undertaking this risky task because his sister needed money for a heart transplant. Hearing this, Xiao Mo's attitude softened and he inquired about his sister's condition. Ajay nodded and said that he had performed a ritual with Master Yang yesterday. However, Xiao Emo was saddened by this, as she had learned earlier that Master Yang had suffered a heart attack and had severed his tongue. Everyone rushed to the hospital. Xiao's anxiety increased further as Xiao Ai's spirit was no longer in her body. If not found in time, she would die. Xiao Emo was lost in deep thought, while Ajay's anxiety was evident. Xiao Mo's heart finally melted. He promised to find Xiao Ai's spirit, regardless of the obstacles. She asked Ajay for something connected to her sister. Ajay took out Xiao Ai's childhood watch. Xiao Ai took it and made a strange symbol on the ground and began making unusual hand gestures. She was actually about to exit the spirit world and find Xiao Ai in the underworld. This process took 4 minutes in the real world, but time worked differently there. When Xiao Emo opened her eyes, darkness filled the air. Just then, a long shadow passed by dragging a chain. It was Xiao Ai's spirit. Xiao Emo saw the amulet on her back and realized someone was deliberately trying to kill her. She stopped the chain and tried to save herself by lighting a fire, but the spirit was too powerful. Despite falling several times, Xiao Ai remained steadfast. Finally, she tore the amulet and the two returned to the real world. Xiao Ai regained consciousness and black water began to flow from her mouth. Xiao Ai realized that the amulet was actually a rare magical amulet that could draw out souls. It was clear that someone wanted to kill Xiao. The next morning, Bai Popo took Xiao Emo to the guru. The guru explained that the amulet had no markings on it, meaning it was difficult to find the cursor. The easiest way was to ask the victim who had offended her. Xiao Emo was confused, as Xiao Ai had no enmity with anyone. The guru smiled and said that humans can do anything for their own selfish reasons, whereas ghosts are more honest. Are such people worthy of our salvation? Xiao Emo felt her suspicions were correct. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Xiao Wei began to recover, and Li Xing came to visit her, and Ajay went to wash clothes. Seeing the opportunity, Li Jing reached under the bed. An amulet had been found there before. Now the question was Li Jing the one harming Xiao Wei? Just then, a doctor, looking at Li Jing, asked in surprise, "Aren't you from the diagnostic lab? Then what are you doing here? What were you doing?" It was clear that Li Jing had a big secret, and this is where the story takes a new turn. That's why AJ's behavior was strange when he first met her, and a real estate deal came spontaneously. The landlady was worried and wanted to sell her house, because a few days ago another tenant had committed suicide by jumping. This was the third such incident in 3 years. Each time she had performed rituals, but the strange events wouldn't stop. She was forced to sell the house. Yangren considered the house very inauspicious and didn't want to take the deal. But Boss Chung accepted without hesitation. In fact, he had already planned to send Ajay to the Chinese Medicine Center and call Xiao Emo. After recent meetings, the tension between the two had subsided. Xiao Emo finally arrived with Ajay at the infamous house. As soon as she entered the living room, she felt a strong negative energy. She opened her eyes and soon saw the spirits of the 3 people who had jumped to their deaths. Xiao asked everyone to leave and decided to confront the 3 stubborn spirits first. Ajay became curious about Xiao's past and later learned that she had possessed the ability to conjure spirits since childhood. Her parents, unable to bear it, abandoned her at the temple. Bapopo took her there and put her through meditation, But even as she grew up, she remained isolated from people and suffered greatly in life. This allowed Xiaoma to understand spirits who refused to be reborn because they had unfulfilled desires. After a while, the door to the room opened, and Xiao emerged with a pale face. She had freed 2 spirits, but one remained silent. With the landlady's help, Ajay called the dead girl's mother. Xiaoma explained that the girl had something left to say and urged her not to grieve too much, or she would be unable to go. The mother trembled and wept. Then Bapopo covered Xiao's eyes with a red cloth. The girl's spirit simply wanted to be forgiven. She didn't want to do this and hoped her mother wouldn't blame her. "How can I blame her?" she said. Everyone thought the matter was over. But as she left, the girl's mother gave Ajay a red box, saying she'd accidentally picked it up while moving. It probably belonged to this house. The box had a strange, sticky feel and no one knew what was inside. Another terrifying house was cleared. Ba Sheng invited everyone to dinner to celebrate, and Bapopo Xiaomo also came. Xiaomo saw at a glance that Li Jing's yang energy was very weak, while Ajay was the complete opposite. After drinking, everyone started dancing and singing. Only Ba Sheng sat alone in a corner, dejected. Yongin had previously said that he was once a very wealthy businessman and hadn't opened this agency to make money. It was clear there was a story behind it. Everyone became intoxicated. As Ajay carried Li Jing home on his back, she began to talk strangely and said, "Thank you for letting me stay with you." Meanwhile, when Yongren dropped Ba Sheng off at home, things seemed even more strange. The boss kept telling him to speak softly, as his wife was sleeping. But Yongren noticed that the people in the wall paintings were wearing strange head coverings. As he left, he took a closer look at the shoe cabinet, and something seemed amiss. The next morning, Ajay took the customer to show him the house. During negotiations, the customer's child suddenly disappeared. Ajay saw the child climb onto the window and quickly pulled him down. Both Ajay and Li Sheng were shocked. It was clear that the house hadn't been thoroughly cleaned, and that strange box was causing all the trouble. The entire process was filmed and posted online. Soon, various rumors spread everywhere. In particular, someone even claimed that there had been 3 cases in this house in a few years, all of whom had jumped to their deaths from the same window. The owner's wife came to the office and created a ruckus. Now her house could neither be rented nor sold. A short while later, Xiaoma arrived at the scene and said she had dealt with the ghost. She really couldn't understand how it had happened again. The owner's wife, seeing Xiaoma so young, said nothing could happen to this girl. Ba Sheng stood up and hushed her. Then, Xiaoma apologized helplessly. But Xiaoma has a stubborn nature. She was absolutely convinced that the ghost had left the room. Yet, everyone in the room didn't believe her, and a disappointed expression appeared on her face. And she turned and left. No wonder Xiaoma was in such a fiery mood. It turned out that an hour earlier, she had mustered up the courage to go to a class reunion. But she had inadvertently overheard her old classmates' conversation. Everyone thought she was strange. She had mustered up the courage to go, wanting to connect with her classmate. Poor Xiaoma had already been hurt by her classmate, and now she was under the curse of her daily companions. She then took out the makeup box from her bag. It was something she had accidentally brought from AJ's house. Xiaoma wanted to put it back, but she couldn't stop herself from opening the lid. A brief glance in the mirror made her feel like she was back in her student days. The student's previous cold demeanor had changed. Xiaoma's classmates took Xiaoma to the rooftop, while Bapopo, unable to contact her all night, suffered a hangover. At the same time, a senior sister called to remind her that Xiaoma was possessed. Bapopo panicked and was about to go looking for her when she encountered a colleague from Ishing Real Estate at the door. They too learned that Xiaoma was missing. No one was answering the phone. Ajay, in particular, was furious. The landlady said so many bad things about Xiaoma, yet he didn't stand up for her. After all, Xiaoma had done so much for Ishing Real Estate. Bapopo consoled her and told her not to blame herself. In reality, Xiaoma was possessed by a very powerful spirit. This spirit is usually deeply attached to a single object and remains attached to it. To resolve this crisis, they must find the root of the spirit's attachment and then return to the house and fulfill it. Ba Sheng was distraught after hearing the latter, as the house had been sold. He didn't have the keys and getting in was impossible. The new owner was another longtime competitor. The landlady was forced to sell the house because of the ghost. But Ajay and the others refused to give up. Putting other business matters aside, they wanted to save Shyama at all costs and told Baipopo, "Don't worry, we'll find a way." People split up and began searching for clues about Shyama. Li Xing and Ajay found the landlady and tried to borrow the keys temporarily. But the owner had numerous complaints with Yixing Real Estate and needed to sign a lease contract quickly. How could she just hand over the keys? While Ajay and Jiling were pleading with the landlady, the person she had sold the house to saw her face freeze instantly as a ghost stood right behind her. It turned out that Baipopo's sister had done all this to him, and a little magic had forced the landlady to willingly hand over the keys. Because his sister watched soap operas all the time. Surprisingly, the child in the video was just an actor. This terrified Ajay. There wasn't really a ghost in the house. It was all a conspiracy by the competition. The person in front of her was directing the scene herself. Only then did he understand why she was taking out her phone and filming everywhere as soon as the buyer entered. But the missing Shyama had still not been found. Meanwhile, Ba Sheng found a man. He had been a real estate agent in his youth and, coincidentally, knew something about the haunted house. He revealed that he knew the house's previous owner. His name was Elon. When she was newly married and moved in, everyone was jealous of her because she had a good husband. But this seemingly good man was actually an alcoholic and a domestic abuser. Elon was always crying and would only hold on to the box her father had given her, with which she spent some peaceful moments. Her husband, unable to bear this, tried to snatch the box. As a result, Elon vehemently resisted, and the man's anger escalated, and he poured alcohol on Elon's face and then set it on fire with a cigarette. Elon's heartbreaking scream echoed, and amidst her husband's cries, Elon fell out of the window. From then on, the house became a complete haunting. During this time, the tenants had changed several times, and almost all of them had tragic ends. He had heard about this before. Elon's husband had also passed away some time later. Furthermore, his grave was right next to Elon's. Elon's father had tried several times to move his daughter's ashes, but each time her husband's family refused. Now, it was finally clear who was behind the move. Everyone set off on their own. Ajay and Baipopo took the keys and prepared to go to the haunted house to find Shyama, while Boss Cheyenne and Li Jing went to meet Elon's father to persuade him to take his daughter home. Meanwhile, Yongren and Manto quietly arrived at the cemetery and began preparing to move Elon's ashes. Initially, everything went well. Yongren quickly found Elon's grave. But as soon as the ashes were exchanged, the hall lights suddenly flickered on, signaling a security patrol. Just as Yongren was about to be caught, the doorbell rang. It turned out that Manto had deliberately posed as a visitor and distracted the security guard. Yongren seized the opportunity and slipped out the front door. Both of them completed the task safely. But they hadn't realized that at that very moment, Shyama was sitting at the window of the haunted house, smiling, while the voices of her classmates echoed on the other side. Shyama's body involuntarily leaned forward. But Ajay rushed in just in time and caught her. However, Shyama was unwilling to leave her body, and in deep grief, she couldn't recognize anyone. She pushed Baipopo with one hand, then picked up a pair of scissors from the ground and was about to stab herself when Ajay caught her. Baipopo took the opportunity and stepped forward, calling her name. It was then that she revealed that she had sacrificed her youth to save Shyama many years ago. In that moment of guilt, Shyama regained consciousness. But when she saw the container, she returned to her previous state. Baipopo forcefully urged Ajay to pour the amulet water. However, Ajay's hands were holding Shyama's hands to calm her down. Given the situation, he chose to talk. The next moment, Shyama's eyes lighted up, and a large amount of black water flowed from her waist. The spirit was finally expelled, but its anger remained unabated. It was about to attack again when Ba Xing brought her father. However, the father couldn't see his daughter. Still, he continued to shout, "Come home with me." The ghost's face gradually calmed, revealing that Elon's only wish was to return to his father. When the ashes in the dowry box were handed over to his father, years of hatred finally vanished. Elon bid farewell to Xiaoma, and smoke spread, and she vanished. Seeing so many people suffer for her, Xiaoma burst into tears. Since childhood, she had been rejected by everyone around her, and so she cared deeply for others. Xiaoma's heart was suddenly shattered. Through this incident, Ajay also learned a secret. Pai Popo wasn't Xiaoma's grandmother, but her best friend. She later became such a person only to protect Xiaoma. Everyone thought the haunted house scandal was over, but new trouble struck. Li Xing, the seller of the haunted house, hadn't come to work for several days. No one was answering her phone. Ajay became worried and went to her house. But the neighbor said that it wasn't Li Jing who lived there, but Jian Mingting, and that Dr. Jian worked at the hospital. Hearing this, Ajay became even more confused. He immediately rushed to the hospital and coincidentally bumped into Li Jing. But to Ajay's surprise, Li Jing didn't recognize him. Ajay realized the matter was no small matter and rushed to the company to report his findings to Boss Shang. Boss Shang immediately retrieved Li Jing's joining file, which had the name Jian Mingting. Initially, Li Jing had said she had changed her name and the documents couldn't be updated on time. To find out the truth, Ajay went to her house again. But Li Jing mistook him for a stalker and stopped him outside. Ajay was about to explain things to her when he saw Xiao Mo leaving the house. Ajay was completely stunned. Xiao Mo pushed him out, leaving Ajay bewildered. But soon, Xiao Mo revealed the entire truth. 2 weeks ago, Li Jing invited her to a yoga class, but in the middle of the night, she suddenly fainted and hit her head on the ground. When she regained consciousness, the relationship between them had changed. Li Jing couldn't even recognize her. Xiaoma sensed something was wrong, so she deliberately grabbed Li Jing's hand. Only then did she realize that the man's yang energy was extremely weak, and he was clearly possessed by an evil spirit. If not treated promptly, it could be life-threatening. But Li Jing didn't believe these things. However, she herself was deeply troubled. Recently, she had been working night shifts continuously, and even after sleeping, she felt extremely tired, as if she hadn't slept in days. Even more strangely, she noticed milk in the refrigerator, a milk she hated. Why was it in the refrigerator? And some strange clothes were kept in the closet. So, she immediately checked the CCTV in the living room and... Meanwhile, Ajay sensed something was amiss. Witnessed a terrifying scene. Every time she fell asleep, someone else would take control of her body, apply strange makeup, and drink milk from the refrigerator. After several naps, Li Jing himself asked Xiaoma for help. The only way Xiaoma could have done was to stay with Li Jing for a while. But from that day on, the spirit never appeared again. Everyone wondered why no one had noticed Li Jing's abnormality before. Xiaoma explained that he didn't use his clairvoyance for 24 hours, and Li Jing's spirit held no ill will. Therefore, it was difficult to trace him. Everyone began to wonder why the spirit was still wandering the human world. Xiaoma decided that the spirit must have some unfulfilled wish for the future. Then Ajay remembered that Li Jing had said that a sister of his had died. But Xiaoma flatly denied this, saying that Li Jing had no sister. In fact, the one who had died was Li Jing herself. After checking online information, it was discovered that Li Jing had disappeared 13 years ago. At that time, she had just graduated from an insurance company and was at a petrol station to sign a contract, where she was stopped by her boss. She hadn't been heard from since. Li Jing's sister suspected the petrol station owner of the crime. However, years of police investigations yielded no evidence. Li Jing's body was never found, and no case was filed. Then, Wei retrieved the missing persons file from the police station. Ajay saw a very familiar image in it. He had visited the petrol station before and collapsed there. He had felt very strange then. Now, it became clear that Li Jing's spirit was attached to Jian Mingting's body. Yama disguised himself as an environmental protection employee and tried to inspect the situation. Unfortunately, the shop owner kicked them out and the two returned. They hadn't expected the shop owner to be so arrogant. Shamo was convinced that the same man was Li Xing's killer. Unfortunately, even after so many years, the police had found no evidence, and he remained evading the law. But then they decided to sneak into the shop at night. That very night, they both sat in a car outside the repair shop, keeping watch, waiting for an opportunity to enter. However, Ajay had to visit his sister at the hospital as usual, and Shamo noticed that the shop owner had left. Shamo repeatedly called Ajay, but Ajay didn't answer the call. She feared the owner might return at any moment. So Xiao went in alone. The repair shop looked old and dark. The dim light made the atmosphere even more eerie. Xiao saw occult weapons hanging on all four walls, and then went to the place Ajay had mentioned. There was a chest filled with amulets, used to seal magic. As she opened the lid, a rotten skull emerged from inside. She was about to leave when someone suddenly attacked her from behind, knocking her unconscious. When she regained consciousness, she found herself trapped inside a ridge. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Ajay sensed something was wrong and went to look for Xiao, but Xiao was missing. He sensed danger and rushed to the repair shop with police officer Wan Yu. No one was in the courtyard, but Shamo's hat was lying on the ground. Both of their faces fell. It was clear something bad had happened. Seeing the occult paraphernalia hanging on the wall in the office area, Ajay remembered the refrigerator. They rushed there and were about to open the door when the shop owner attacked with an axe, causing Wan Yu to fall down, wounded. Ajay ran to help, but the owner attacked him too. Wan Yu managed to grab a weapon, but the owner had a hostage, so he had to drop it, and then a scuffle broke out between the two. Meanwhile, Ajay opens the refrigerator door, and inside, Xiao, nearly suffocated, finds her. Ajay tries to warm her in his arms, and Xiao, trembling, points to the refrigerator. Just then, the shop owner overpowers Wan Yu again and is about to kill him when suddenly, a long-haired shadow emerges from the refrigerator. The owner, frightened, flees and is hit by a car on the road, killing him. The police find the body of Li Xing, who had been missing for 13 years. Finally, Li Xing's spirit yearns to see everyone one last time, and with the help of Dr. Jian, this happens. Li Xing tearfully thanks Ajay, revealing that the shop owner had been holding Li Xing's soul captive after killing her. Ajay breaks the trap, and Li Xing is freed. Seeing her mother in pain daily, she no longer wants to be reborn. Over time, she has become even more attached to this world. With her mother, friends, and Ajay, she is still alive. Finally, his chapter ends. But the story doesn't end there. Meanwhile, Ba Sheng cooks dinner as usual and invites his family over, but the table remains empty. His wife and children were killed many years ago. Ba Sheng had been working in property for many years and had seen countless haunted houses. That day, he arrived with Yongren at a villa on the outskirts of the city. Legend has it that the couple who owned the house mysteriously died in their bedroom 8 years ago, and no one has lived there since. It's a haunted house. But instead of feeling sad, Ba Sheng becomes excited, especially when he sees the nails buried in the living room. Meanwhile, Wan Yu, who was at the police station, is suddenly stopped by a colleague. A few days ago, she accidentally saw Ba Sheng bringing soup for Wan Yu. Then she remembers that she had previously worked on his case. Curious, Wan Yu immediately retrieves the file, and the shocking truth is revealed. 6 years ago, Ba Sheng's wife and children were brutally murdered in their home. The killers were caught, but due to lack of evidence and their being minors, they were ultimately sentenced to only 5 years in prison for theft. Yongren found this very strange, because in all those years, Ba Sheng had never mentioned this to anyone. Instead, he would often mention his wife and daughter's name, saying he would go home and cook for them. Yongren remembered a party some time ago when he had dropped off a drunken Ba Sheng. The woman and child's shoes were lying at the door, and Ba Sheng had asked him to speak softly, as his wife and child were sleeping upstairs. Yongren felt something was definitely wrong. Wan Yang, based on his experience, guessed that Ba Sheng might be mentally unstable. Meanwhile, Ba Sheng cooked a lot of food as usual, but while eating he would start crying and muttering strange things. We'll meet again very soon. Are you guys waiting for me? Meanwhile, Yongren becomes worried about his boss's condition and, deliberately probing the situation, says he wants to visit Boss Sung's family sometime. Boss Sung immediately agrees. But as soon as the date comes up, he puts it off, citing the children's studies. Yongren persistently asks what class the children are in, and Boss Sung's face changes, and just as the situation is becoming awkward, Ajay arrives and breaks the conversation. Yongren is forced to abandon the investigation. Meanwhile, Won-yu uncovers another crucial clue. Some time ago, the killers of Boss Sung's family were released from prison after completing their sentence, but mysteriously disappeared within a few days. Won-yu's heart is filled with anxiety, and she immediately calls Boss Sung, but there's no response. Growing anxious, she goes to his house herself. Just as she's about to ring the doorbell, Boss Sung himself opens the door and says he's going out. Right now, she says. But Won, you wanted to go inside and take a look. So she lied, saying she had to go to the restroom, and Boss Sung's face changed upon hearing this. After inviting Won-yu inside, she locked the door. From that very night, Won-yu disappeared completely. Her last message to Yongren was that she was going to speak to Boss Shang. AJ and Yongren immediately rushed to Boss Shang's house, but despite repeated knocking, there was no response. Yongren remembered the previous experience and retrieved the spare key from under the flower pot. Boss Shang was gone, and there was no sign of Won-yu's presence 38:07. The veiled pictures hanging on the wall seemed strange. Even more frightening was the presence of a terrifying tantric altar in the master bedroom closet. Ajay remembered seeing an upside-down Buddha statue as a child. Before his father killed his mother, she was continuously chanting incantations, and beneath it was a similar altar. Beipo and Shamo immediately arrived and recognized at a glance that this was a Bangpa ritual. Boss Shang was actually worshipping at this temple, which is completely different from ordinary temples. The evil spirits worshipped there are diverse, and the methods are extremely mysterious and terrifying. No one imagined that Boss Shang, who appeared ordinary on the outside, was secretly engaged in such activities. The uncertainty surrounding Vei's life and death fills everyone with unease. Meanwhile, in the same haunted house or villa seen earlier, two men lie among a pile of sacrificial materials. These were the men who had murdered Boss Shang's wife and daughter. Boss Shang had ambushed them shortly after their release from prison, and they are now. While unconscious, they were dragged into the haunted house and sacrificed. Fortunately, Vei's life was not in danger. She was merely sedated and brought along, and upon regaining consciousness, she understood Boss Shang's intentions upon seeing the scene before her. Vei persuades her not to act impulsively and trust the police. A deep bitterness crosses Boss Shang's face, and he explains that his wife, despite starving herself, gave alms to the poor every month. Such a noble person was brutally murdered. Therefore, he has no faith in anyone, not even the justice system. He wants to give peace to his wife and daughter in his own way, by worshipping the devil god. When all the necessary materials are ready, Boss Shang picks up a long nail, muttering a mantra, and points it at a boy's head. It hammers repeatedly until he dies. As soon as the trap is complete, the gates of hell open. The dark force swallows the offerings one by one. The ground turned to black mud, and two human heads slowly emerged from it. These were Zhang's dead family members. He joyfully rushed forward and embraced them, as he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. After the death of his wife and daughter, he lived every day in pain. He always felt they were right there with him, but he couldn't see them. To reunite with his wife and daughter, he began worshipping at the Black Temple and, at the behest of his guru, opened a hut shop to find the perfect place for the sacrifice. His sister, overjoyed, declared that the place was perfect for the ritual. She told Zhang that if he acted courageously, his dead wife and daughter could return, and told him that he was truly lucky. It wasn't easy, but Zhang believed it. He believed that the gates of hell would open, allowing him to reunite with his wife and daughter. But he didn't know that the moment the gates of hell opened, the evil spirits would also come out. Meanwhile, Ajay went to jail today and asked his father why he killed his mother. But the answer he received was shocking. Did your mother have a child at that time? It's all nonsense. And when AJ showed a photo of the temple, it was the same temple she had worshipped since childhood. The truth was that AJ's mother had also fallen victim to something evil and nearly killed AJ. To save his son and daughter, his father killed his mother. But in the end, AJ's mother was defeated by the Dark Temple, and he too was defeated by the power of the Red Feather. He worshipped the temple to protect his children, but in the end, he ended up killing his own children. Shom was also worshipping at the same place. This was the world the evil spirit wanted. Meanwhile, Xiaomu felt that Shom would surely find the most terrifying place and open the door. They had to stop the evil spirit before it came out, because the door to the ghosts had already opened. Now, the only one who could stop it was Xiaomu, and the evil spirit had been reborn in Shom's body. The spell isn't working on him. He'll have to go to him to activate the amulet. Actually, Xiaomu had used a separation spell, but even then, she couldn't resist the evil spirit. A monk arrived just in time and helped, sending the evil spirit back to hell. Shang paid the price for his stubbornness, and only Xiaoma and Az could escape. But Xiaoma knew he couldn't escape this fate because Az owed him. In this life, he was going to die for his love. Az's sister needed a heart. If he died, his heart would be given to Az ultimately. Xiaoma's heart was given to Az's sister. By the time Az woke up, Xiaoma had already passed away. The good thing was that his sister's operation was a success. Az didn't know whether to cry or think. Xiaoma left, and Shang also died. The hated house shop closed down there. All the staff were busy preparing for the funeral, hoping to meet again at Xiaoma's funeral, but no one imagined something like this would happen. A girl was dropping something on Xiaoma's grave. When AJ's sister asked her, "Who are you?" she replied, "Someone was buried alive in the grave." AJ's sister saw it all with one eye. Then, she expelled the evil spirit. In effect, she had adopted Xiaoma's heart, which meant she had also adopted his power. Now, like Xiaoma, she too would have to break her bloodline and bear the burden of her fate. AJ's sister became the new goddess servant, and at the same time, AJ received news from prison that his father had committed suicide. This news was a huge blow to Ai, and perhaps the future would change. Could have been. The dark hand behind the Caogong Temple has yet to be revealed. It was the same one that forced AJ's mother to harm her children and, incidentally, opened the gates of hell, unleashing an evil spirit. What was his true motive? No one knows. And most importantly, before committing the crime, Sahaeog also kidnapped a female police officer, and the black blood stuck to her feet, causing her to become pregnant. Do you think this was simple pride, or is this a conspiracy by those behind the scenes? What did you think about today's story? Let me know in the comments below. If you'd love to watch more stories like this, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. Thank you for watching.